math fails, or John. Um, yeah, you're right. I could use the word hole on. I'm not read The Ghost in the Machine. Probably should. Sounds like a really interesting and a classic work at this point. But I am familiar with the concept of the hole on. And it's an interesting thing because a lot of times I do not adopt some of these terms that some niche has developed, even though it is clear that it would be useful. And it's sort of, I'm not saying it's good that I don't. And actually, I will remember this. I will remember the term "hold on" probably better because of this feedback. And bring it up for reference, and I should read more of it because it is directly in line with my thinking. But sometimes, I read philosophy and it's kind of clever, but I already know the idea, and I'm kind of selfish. I'm trying to get an idea. I'm not trying to convince the rest of the world. So I don't. I don't end up being interested just because somebody has like a better marketing for the idea. If I've already seen the idea, I'm probably going to give credit to whomever I already read the idea from, or however I was influenced to come up with the idea. It's kind of like this conversation I had on Heidegger in a PM, and in some comments, which, by the way, if you're watching this, I'm going to continue that a little bit. But where there's my personal history. It affects how I see someone like Heidegger. I read Nietzsche in high school. By the time I read Heidegger, there were no ideas there I hadn't already been exposed to. And you add into that I thought I was getting simplified and falsified versions of some of those ideas. I mean, the idea that Heidegger was a student, I don't mean a personal student, but he's known to have been heavily influenced by Nietzsche. We know he read Nietzsche, and he would go on and on about being. It's just he's ignored one of the most important arguments in Nietzsche, and things like this just sort of bug me because I had read Nietzsche first. If I'd read him first, I'd probably be going, oh, these are great ideas, and I might have moved on, but I wouldn't feel so bad about Heidegger. Kind of like Freud. Freud, similar thing, took some ideas, overly simplified them. If you've been exposed to those ideas through other philosophers, or if you realize that there were philosophers, um, you know, prior to Freud that had these ideas, and you see how he took them and simplified them down in a way that really took out the art and the beauty of what you'd seen before. But since I was exposed to Freud at an even younger age, as I grew past his ideas, I didn't have the same kind of the same kind of feeling, and also Freud wasn't a fucking Nazi. So it's kind of like that. It's like I think Heidegger probably is a good philosopher. I think Heidegger is good for the popularization of some of these ideas that I believe. I think the concept of hold on is even better. But often I will skip that and try to just use, modified regular language. By modified, I mean I'm going to use the word knowledge. I'm not going to make them a new term. It's knowledge. Our old definition was bad, so I feel free to update it. But it's still a natural language, it's a process of natural language. Coining a term is also a process of natural language, and I think it's likely that hold on will become an accepted way of expressing this, a one-word way of expressing this. But I also think it's important to talk about systems. I think people understand more and more because of the internet, because of all of the technology in our lives, because of working on complex things like the car, and all of this stuff. People understand more and more systems in the sense in which things that seem whole always have parts, and parts are always whole in both directions. Nothing is isolated from its environment, but things can be identified as semi-isolated, if you will, systems. That's not the right word, semi-isolated, but you know what I mean, that they can be distinguished as having some separation from their surrounding as well as some connection. And so I think it's important right about now to continue to talk about the systems analysis. I think people understand intuitively more and more the system analysis approach to things. So I think we can do this in natural language. But yeah, thanks for the video, and I guess the summary is that it's a good point, and thanks for reminding me because I think you've given me some reading I should do, and I'll definitely keep this concept in mind. I think it probably is good to spread this concept as a one-word version of what I'm saying, because it does adhere enough to my points that it wouldn't be misleading. It's not just a close fit. It's pretty much exactly what I was expressing. As you said, the video could have been titled "Hold On" if I thought in terms of that. But I've been exposed to that term, but I haven't really incorporated it into the expression of my philosophy. Anyway, I am now rambling, or maybe was the whole time, but that's just my message, and I'm going back into the matrix now.